Walk it off. Stop being a baby, my sister snapped after twisting my arm during one of her games. She saw my swollen arm and limp fingers and called the police. The cold tile pressed against my cheek and a searing pain spread through my arm. Maxie stood over me and laughed, pushing my hair out of my face. Come on, don't be a baby, she snapped, but her voice was slightly shaky. I tried to stand up, leaning on my left arm, but my right arm hung like a rope. My fingers didn't obey, and my elbow began to swell quickly. Maxie finally realized that she had overdone it this time. Margot? Her voice was less confident. Are you okay? I couldn't answer. The pain was coming in waves, and my eyes were dark. Maxie sat down next to me, her face turning from mocking to concerned. Look, it was just a game. I always do. You know that. Yes, I knew. These games had started 5 years ago when I was 12 and she was 14. At first, it was really just ordinary sisterly pranks, wrestling on the bed, jostling for the TV remote. But gradually, everything changed. Maxie has always been stronger, taller, smarter. At least that's what adults said. She had long brown hair that was always shiny and big brown eyes that reflected the sun's rays. I was ordinary. Brown hair, freckles, a thin figure. Maxie told her parents the right things at the right time, and I always got things wrong or said the wrong thing. Do you remember when we used to play wrestling? Maxie asked my mom when she noticed the bruises on my arms. Margot is such a loser, she always falls down. And my mom laughed, hugging Maxie to her. Be careful with your little sister, love. But Maxie was never more careful. On the contrary, her games became more and more violent. She found painful points on my body and pressed them when my parents were not around. She knew how to twist my arm so that it would hurt as much as possible, but leave no visible marks. This is our little game, she told me. Our secret. If you tell your parents, it will be even worse. And I kept quiet. It was just a game, right? Sisters always do that. At least that's what Maxie used to say. I remember the day I was 14. Maxie came home from college in a bad mood. She got a B in chemistry, and her parents were expecting an A. I was sitting in my room doing my homework when she came in without knocking. Move, she said, pushing me out of bed. Maxie, I'm doing my homework. I need a place to think. You can do your homework on the floor. I didn't mind. I never minded. But that day, something in me resisted. Maybe because I had a math test the next day and I didn't have time to prepare. Can I finish this assignment? It's only a little bit left. Maxie stopped at the mirror where she was doing her makeup for her date with her boyfriend. Her face darkened. What did you say? I just asked. She came up to me and grabbed my wrist. She squeezed so hard that I screamed. Do you think you can disobey me? You think you're more important than me? No, I don't. She twisted my arm back and I fell to my knees in pain. Remember this, Margot. You are nothing. Do you understand? You're nothing. And I am everything. And as long as you live in this house, you will do what I say. After that incident, I never crossed her again. Maxie loved it. She began to invent new games, pushing me down the stairs, pinching my soft spots, hitting me in the kidneys when I washed the dishes, always in such a way that there were no traces that my parents could notice. But my parents didn't notice anything anyway. They were too busy with Maxie and her achievements. Ruth's mom worked as a nurse at the local hospital, and Tyson's dad worked as a mechanic at a car repair shop. They came home tired and just wanted to hear how well their eldest daughter was doing. Maxie got a scholarship, her mom rejoiced. Maxie joined the student council. Dad was proud. And then they looked at me. And you, Margot? How are your grades? My grades were average. Not great like Max's, but not bad either. Just average. Not good enough to be proud of, not bad enough to care. The only one who noticed anything strange was my friend Mark. We had known each other since kindergarten. He lived across the street and often came to visit us. Mark saw the blue spots on my arms, noticed how I flinched when Maxie came too close. What's wrong with you? He asked me one day when we were sitting in the park near the school. Nothing. I'm fine. Margot, I'm not blind. You always have some scratches on you, and you act strange when Maxie is around. I wanted to tell him the truth, I really wanted to, but then I remembered what Maxie had said about what would happen if someone found out. You think too much. Maxie and I just play sometimes. Mark looked at me skeptically, but didn't insist anymore. Now, as I lay on the kitchen floor, I realized that this time was different. My arm was really damaged, and not just sore, it was non-functional. I could move my shoulder, but everything below the elbow did not respond to my commands. "Maxie," I whispered, "call an ambulance." She fussed and grabbed the phone from the kitchen table. Her fingers trembled as she dialed. I had never seen her so scared before. "Hello? Yes, I need an ambulance. My sister fell and I think she broke her arm." She fell. Not I pushed her or we fought. She fell. "Yes, she is conscious. No, she didn't hit her head, only her arm. Address, 737 Maple Street, Apartment B." Maxie ended the conversation and sat down on the floor next to me. Her face was pale, and I saw something unusual in her eyes, fear. "Listen, Margot," she began quietly. "When they come, you're going to say you fell, okay? You just fell. You were walking through the kitchen, slipped on the water from washing the dishes, and fell." I looked at her through tears of pain. Her beautiful face was worried, but not guilty. She really believed it was just an accident, or she wanted to believe it was. "Maxie, no, Margot, you fell. Do you understand? If you say anything else, your parents will be very upset, and I'll feel bad. I could get expelled from college. You don't want to ruin my life, do you?" I've been working as a cashier at the Fresh Mart supermarket for 6 months. 8 hours on my feet, constant beeping of the scanner, lines of dissatisfied customers. The pay wasn't much, only $8 an hour, but I gave half of it to my parents for family needs, as Dad Tyson used to say. Maxie was in college and didn't work. Her parents said she needed to focus on her studies. "Maxie is so smart," Mom Ruth kept saying. "She will become a doctor or a lawyer. She has a great future ahead of her. And you, Margot, can always find a simple job. The main thing is to be useful." A simple job. To be useful. As if my dreams didn't matter. I dreamed of working with animals, of becoming a veterinarian. When I was little, I used to pick up injured birds and try to treat them. I dreamed of my own clinic where I would help sick animals, but when I mentioned it, my parents would laugh. "Don't dream about the impossible," my dad used to say. "To become a veterinarian, you need a lot of money to study. We don't have it. Be realistic." "Besides," my mom would add, "it's such a dirty job. You're a girl. It's better to find something cleaner, calmer." And I accepted it. I graduated from high school with average grades, got a job as a cashier, and gave half of my salary to my family. Meanwhile, Maxie was studying to become a nurse at a prestigious college, and all the money went to her tuition, textbooks, and dormitory. "Maxie is our investment in the future," her father explained. "When she becomes a nurse, she will be able to help the whole family." The siren was getting closer. Maxie looked at me one last time, and I saw in her eyes not pity, but calculation. "You fell, do you understand? And nothing else happened. We didn't play, we didn't fight, you were just walking through the kitchen and fell." The doctors were quick and professional. A young man with dark hair and an older woman in a white coat came in with a stretcher. The man carefully examined my arm without touching it. "How did it happen?" he asked Maxie. She answered before I could. She was walking through the kitchen and slipped. I was washing the dishes. There was water on the floor. She fell on her right hand. The doctor nodded, writing something down in his notebook. "Girl, can you talk?" I nodded. "Does it hurt?" "Very much," I whispered. "It looks like a fracture, maybe more than one. We need to take it to the hospital for an X-ray." The female medic carefully fixed my arm in a temporary splint. Every touch was burning. "Is there anyone to go with her?" she asked. "I'll go," Maxie said quickly. "I'm her sister." As they put me on the stretcher, I saw Maxie quickly wiping away her tears. She really did look like a concerned older sister, not someone who had just hurt me. Maxie has always been good at acting. She always knew what to say and how to behave. In the ambulance, the doctor gave me painkillers through an IV. The pain gradually receded, but something worse remained in my soul. The realization that what happened was not a game, and that Maxie would never admit it. She was sitting next to me, holding my healthy hand and whispering soothing words. The doctor saw her as a caring sister, but I knew the truth. As always, only I knew the truth. Outside the ambulance window, the familiar streets of our neighborhood flashed by. I thought about Mark, who was probably doing his homework in his room. He always said something was wrong. Maybe it was finally time to believe him. The hospital room smelled like disinfectant and something sour. My arm was plastered from elbow to hand, and the doctor had just explained that it was broken in 2 places. Maxie sat next to me on a chair, playing the role of a caring sister to the medical staff. 6 weeks in a cast, the doctor said, making notes in the chart. And then physiotherapy. You're lucky, it could have been worse. When he left, I finally got up the courage to look Maxie in the eye. Why did you say I fell? She got up from her chair and walked to the window, turning away from me. Because you fell, Margot. We were playing as usual and you fell. You know that's not true. All I know is that you've always been clumsy, and now you're trying to blame me for your carelessness. Her voice was cold, but I could hear the tension in it. Maxie was afraid, and that was something new. An hour later, my parents came in. Mama Ruth ran into the room with eyes red with tears, and Daddy Tyson followed her with a grim face. My baby! Mom rushed to my bedside. What happened? Did Maxie say you fell? I looked at Maxie, who was standing by the window, then at my parents. Mom, I have to say something. That's not what happened. Dad's brow furrowed. What do you mean? I didn't fall. Maxie, she pushed me. We weren't playing. She got mad about something and twisted my arm. The silence in the room was deafening. Mom slowly straightened up, and Dad crossed his arms over his chest. Margot, Mom said quietly, what are you saying? The truth. Maxie has always done this, for years. I kept quiet because I was afraid, but now... Stop! Dad interrupted me sharply. You're accusing your sister of intentionally hurting you? I nodded, feeling my heart beat faster and faster. Maxie turned from the window, her face a perfect mask of pain and frustration. Mom, Dad, I don't know why she's saying that. We were really playing in the kitchen like always, and she fell. I even called an ambulance. That's a lie, I exclaimed. Maxie, tell the truth. Margot. Mom's voice turned cold. You need to stop this right now. But Mom, no. I don't want to hear any more of these horrible things. Maxie is your sister. She loves you. Why would she intentionally hurt you? Dad moved closer to my bed. Listen to me carefully, Margot. I don't know what's wrong with you, but these accusations are unacceptable. Maxie is a good girl. She is studying. She has a future. And you're trying to ruin it with your fiction. It's not a story. That's enough, Mom said firmly. Maxie, forgive her. She's probably still under the influence of the painkillers. Maxie came to my bedside and took my healthy hand. It's okay, Margot. I understand. You're scared, you're in pain. But we're sisters, right? We're always here for each other. I looked into her brown eyes and saw cold calculation in them. She had won, again. I want to go home, I whispered. Of course, love, Mom said, stroking my head. You'll be discharged tomorrow. When my parents left to do the paperwork, Maxie was left alone with me. Don't do anything stupid like that again, she said quietly. No one will believe you. Ever. The next day, I was discharged from the hospital. On the way home, my parents were silent, and I looked out the window thinking about what Maxie had said. Maybe she was right. Maybe no one would believe me. But then there was Mark. I knew him since kindergarten. We lived on the same street, and he often came to visit us. Mark always noticed things that others did not. He saw the bruises on my arms when I wore long sleeves in hot weather. He noticed how I flinched when Maxie got too close. There's something wrong with your sister, he told me a year ago. Maxie's just like that, I said at the time. No one should be like that. Now sitting in the car with my arm in a cast, I thought Mark was right. 2 days after returning home, I was sitting in my room, trying to read a book with one hand, when I heard a familiar knock on the window. Mark was standing on the fire escape outside my window as he had done since childhood when he wanted to talk to me privately. I opened the window. Hi, he said, climbing into the room. How's your arm? It hurts. Mark was a tall 17-year-old with dark hair and green eyes. He was not popular at school like Maxie, but he was smart and honest. And most importantly, he listened to me. Tell me what really happened, he said, sitting on the edge of my bed. And I did. Everything. About the years of Maxie's games, about how she found my pain points, about the threats, about how my parents didn't believe me in the hospital. Mark listened in silence, his face getting darker and darker. Margot, this is not normal. This is abuse. But it's my sister. So what? Sisters don't do things like that. No one has the right to hit you. My parents don't believe me, but I do. These 3 words meant more to me than anything else. Someone finally believed me. What should I do? I asked. Nothing for now, but if she hits you again, I will call the police, I promise. I wanted to tell him not to, but something stopped me. Maybe I was finally tired of being a victim. The next few days passed quietly. Maxie treated me almost gently, at least in front of my parents. But I saw the way she looked at me when she thought I didn't notice. There was anger in her eyes. A week after I was discharged from the hospital, what I was afraid of happened. My parents went to work, and I was sitting in the kitchen trying to eat breakfast with one hand. Maxie came into the room in a foul mood. "You made me miss college classes," she said as she poured herself a cup of coffee. "My parents demanded that I stay home and take care of you." "I didn't ask." "Shut up. You've done enough already." She came up to me and leaned so close that I could smell her perfume. "Do you think you're smart? You think you can scare me with your stories?" "Maxie, I was just telling the truth." She hit me in the face with her palm, not hard, but enough to make me dizzy. "There's your truth," she hissed. I touched my cheek, feeling it sting. "Maxie, stop!" She hit me again, this time with her fist under my eye. The pain was sharp, and I fell off the chair to the floor. "You're nothing, Margot. No one wants nothing, and until you realize that, it's going to get worse." I was lying on the floor, clutching my healthy hand to my face, when I heard a knock on the door. Maxie instantly changed, her face becoming concerned. "Margot? What happened? Did you fall?" The door opened and Mark came in. He immediately saw me on the floor with a black eye. "What's going on here?" he asked sharply. "My sister fell," Maxie said quickly. "She's dizzy from the medication." Mark looked at her, then at me, then back at her. "Margot, is it true?" I looked into his eyes and saw understanding in them. He knew. "No," I said quietly. "It's not true." Maxie paled. "Margot, what are you—" "That's enough," Mark said, pulling out his phone. "I'm calling the police." "No," Maxie exclaimed. "You don't understand. She has mental problems. She's always talking about me." But Mark was already dialing the phone. "Hello, police? I need help. A girl has been beaten up here." Maxie ran around the kitchen like a cornered animal. "Mark, please, you're going to ruin my life. I'm studying. I have a future." "You should have thought of that earlier," he replied coldly. The police arrived 15 minutes later. 2 officers, a middle-aged man and a young woman. They came into the kitchen and saw me with a black eye and Maxie crying at the sink. "Who called the police?" the male officer asked. "I did," Mark said. "This girl," he pointed at me, "is being abused by her sister." The female officer sat down next to me. "What's your name?" "Margot." "Margot, who hit you?" I looked at Maxie, who was looking at me with horror and anger at the same time. "My sister, Maxie." "That's a lie," Maxie exclaimed. "She's mentally ill. She hurt herself. Look, she even has her arm in a cast. She's always injured." The male officer turned to Mark. "Did you see what happened?" "No, but I came and found Margot on the floor with a black eye, and her sister was standing over her." "Because I was helping her up," Maxie protested. The officers looked at each other. "We need to talk to the parents," the woman said. "They're not home," I said. "They're at work." "Then we'll need to contact social services." Maxie's face turned white. "Social services? But this is just a misunderstanding." But the officers were already on the phone. An hour later, Ivanes Rodriguez, a social worker, a Latino man in his 30s with kind brown eyes and a calm voice, arrived at our house. He spoke to the police for a long time, then to each of us individually. "Margot," he said when we were alone in the living room, "tell me what happened." And I did, not just about today, but about everything, about the years of bullying, about how Maxie found ways to hurt me without leaving a trace, about how my parents didn't believe me. Ivanesh listened attentively, sometimes asking questions. "How long has this been going on?" "About 5 years." "Have you told anyone?" "Only Mark, and my parents at the hospital, but they didn't believe me." "What about teachers? Other adults?" I shook my head. "Maxie always said it was our secret, that if anyone found out, it would be even worse." Ivanesh wrote in his notebook, "Margot, I want you to know that what they did to you is unacceptable. No one has the right to hit you, not even your sister. When her parents returned from work and saw the police car outside the house, they were shocked. Maxie managed to tell them her side of the story, that I was telling on her again because of her mental problems. "Officer," said Dad Tyson, "my daughter Maxie is a good girl. She's in college, has great grades. But Margot has always been a difficult child." "What do you mean, difficult?" Ivanesh asked. "Well, she's jealous of Maxie. She's always trying to get attention. And now these fantasies." Ruta's mom nodded, supporting her husband. "Margot has always made things up, ever since she was a little girl. And now, after the head injury—" "She didn't hit her head," Ivanesh said. "But painkillers can affect the psyche," his mother insisted. Ivanesh talked to his parents for a long time, then to Maxie again. Finally, he turned to me. "Margot, I'm going to keep the case open. This means that I will come here regularly to check on things. In the meantime, you're going to stay at home, but with certain conditions." "What are they?" I asked. "Maxie can't be alone with you without adults. And if there is one more incident, we will consider placing you in a shelter temporarily." The parents were outraged, but Ivanesh was adamant. "This is for the safety of the children, both children." When everyone left, I stayed in my room feeling both relieved and scared. Finally, someone believed me, but now the whole family was against me. Mark knocked on the window. "What's up?" he asked, climbing into the room. "Scared," I answered honestly, "but better than it was. I'm proud of you. It took guts to tell the truth." I looked into his green eyes and for the first time in many years felt that I was not alone. I have someone who believes me, someone who is ready to protect me. "Thank you," I whispered. "For what?" "For calling the police. For believing me." Mark smiled. "Always, Margot, always." I went to bed that night thinking that something had finally changed. Maxie could no longer do whatever she wanted with me. Ivanesh would watch, Mark would protect me. But I didn't know that the hardest part was yet to come. Ivanesh came a week after the incident. I was waiting for him, sitting by the window, looking out onto the street. Maxie was at college, my parents were at work, and I was home alone, just as we had agreed. When he rang the doorbell, I almost ran to open it. During that week, I realized that Ivanesh was the only adult who believed me. "Hello, Margot," he said as he entered the house. "How are you?" "Fine," I answered, although it wasn't quite the truth. The last few days had been tense. Maxie had been acting perfectly in front of her parents, friendly, caring, even bringing me tea in bed. But when we were alone, she looked at me as if she wanted to kill me. "You know it's not over yet," she whispered to me yesterday morning as my parents were leaving for work. "Sooner or later, that social worker will stop coming, and I will stay." Ivanesh sat down on the living room couch and pulled out his notebook. "Tell me about the past week. Were there any problems?" I hesitated. Maxie hadn't done anything to me physically, but the atmosphere in the house was stifling. "She didn't do anything to me," I finally said. "That's good. What about your parents? How do they treat you?" "They're cold. They think I'm lying." Ivanesh nodded. "Is there anything you want to tell me? Maybe about what happened before that incident?" And I did, in detail, about all the years of bullying, about how Maxie found ways to hurt me without leaving any traces, about the psychological pressure, about how she forced me to keep silent. Ivanesh listened attentively, sometimes asking questions. "Margot, do you have any evidence? Photos of the bruises, recordings, witnesses?" I shook my head. Maxie was always careful. She never did anything where others could see. And the bruises, I always hid them with my clothes. And Mark, did he see anything? Only the results, the bruises, the scratches, but not how she did it. Ivanesh wrote something in his notebook. "Margot, I believe you, but the thing is, it's hard to prove anything officially without evidence. For now, we can only monitor the situation. And what if she does something else? Then we will have fresh evidence. But for now, the most important thing is your safety." After Ivanesh left, I felt both relieved and frustrated. It was good that someone believed me, but it was bad that nothing could be done. In the evening, when the whole family gathered for dinner, the atmosphere was subtly tense. Maxie, playing the role of the perfect daughter, talked about her success in college. "Professor Jenkins said my term paper was one of the best he's ever read." she said as she chopped her salad. That's great. Dad was proud. And you, Margot, when are you going back to work? The doctor said in 2 weeks, I answered. Good. I hope this incident doesn't affect your work. I knew what he meant. The police, social services, all of this could have reached my employers. After dinner, Maxie went to her room, and I helped my mom wash the dishes with one hand. Margot, Mom said quietly, I hope you realize that this is very hard on the family. I understand. Maxie is very upset about these accusations. She even cried last night. I didn't say anything. She loves you, we all love you, but these stories of abuse, these are serious things, Margot. I know. So maybe you should think about it again. Maybe you were wrong. Maybe what happened was just an accident. I put the plate on the dryer and looked my mom in the eye. No, Mom, I didn't make a mistake, she sighed. Then I don't know what else to say. The next day at school, I realized that the situation was worse than I thought. Maxie had managed to tell her side of the story to everyone she knew, and since she was more popular than me, most people believed her. Did you hear that Margot accused her sister of violence? The girls whispered at their lockers. I always thought there was something wrong with her, said Brandy, who used to be my friend. Maxie is so sweet. How could she do this? I walked through the halls of the school, feeling the stares. Some were sympathetic, but most were judgmental. At lunch, I sat alone. Even those who used to be my friends avoided me. Only Mark sat down with me. How are you? He asked. Terrible. Everyone thinks I'm crazy. Not everyone. I don't. You're one of the few. Mark took a bite of his sandwich. What does that social worker say? That he believes me, but there's no proof. It will come. Maxie won't be able to control herself for long. I wanted to believe him, but everything seemed hopeless. After school, I walked home. The bus was full of classmates who looked at me sideways. On the way, Ivanesh called me. Margot, we need to talk. Can you come to my office tomorrow after school? Of course. Is something wrong? I'd rather talk to you in person. In the evening, when I was doing my homework in my room, Maxie came in. She closed the door behind her and came to my desk. Listen to me carefully, she said quietly. I know what you told that social worker, and I know that he believes you so far. I didn't answer, continuing to write. But look around you, Margot. Look at how they look at you at school. Look at your parents. Who believes you? Who is on your side? She was right, and it hurt. Only that clumsy Mark and that one social worker against everyone else. She leaned closer. Now imagine what happens when I tell everyone what you really do at home, about how you throw yourself at me when your parents are away, about how you beat yourself up so you can blame me later. That's a lie. Who would believe that? Who would believe a schizophrenic girl who blames her wonderful sister? She straightened up. Think about it, Margot, before it's too late to take it back. When she left, I sat at the table shaking. Maxie was right. Most people believed her. What if she really told everyone even worse things? The next day at Ivana's office, I found out that my fears were not unfounded. Margot, he said as I sat down across from him, I've received several phone calls. From whom? From the parents of your classmates, from your teachers. They say Maxie told them about your problems. My heart beat faster. What problems? They say you're having episodes of aggression, that you attack your sister and then forget about it, that you hallucinate. That's all a lie. I know, but you know, Margot, when so many people say the same thing, you don't believe me? Ivanesh sighed. I do believe you, but my bosses are starting to have doubts. They say we might have made a mistake. I felt the world crashing down around me. What's next? Nothing changes for now, but if there are no new incidents, the case may be closed. I left Ivana's office feeling completely hopeless. Maxie had won, again. At home, the atmosphere was even worse. My parents hardly ever spoke to me, and when they did, it was with reproach. We made an appointment with a psychologist, my mom said at dinner. Dr. Smith will see you on Friday. I don't want to see a psychologist. That's not up for discussion, Dad said. After everything that's happened, you need help. Maxie sat across from me and smiled. She knew she was winning. That night I couldn't sleep for a long time. I lay in bed and thought about what to do next. It seemed that everyone was against me. Suddenly, I heard a knock on the window. Mark was standing on the fire escape. I opened the window, and he came into the room. "How are you?" he asked. "Terrible. Maxie told everyone that I'm crazy. Even the social worker is starting to have doubts." Mark sat on the edge of my bed. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know. Maybe give up. Tell everyone I made a mistake." "No," Mark said firmly. "You can't give up. What else can I do?" "Fight. Prove you're right." "How? I have no proof." Mark was silent for a minute, thinking. What if we create a situation where Maxie shows her true colors? "What do you mean?" "Provoke her. Record her on the phone scolding you or threatening you." I shook my head. "It's too risky. What if she hits me?" "Then you'll have fresh evidence." It was a scary idea, but it might be the only way out. Over the next few days, I thought about Mark's plan. It was scary, but the alternative, living in constant fear and knowing that no one believed me, seemed even worse. Finally, I decided to give it a try. On Friday, when my parents went to work and Maxie was at home, I turned on the voice recorder on my phone and put it in my pocket. Maxie was sitting in the kitchen, drinking coffee and reading her textbook. "Maxie?" I said as I walked into the kitchen. "I need to talk to you." She looked up from her book. "What about?" "About what you've been telling people. About how I'm supposedly crazy." Her face did not change. "I'm telling the truth. You really are crazy." "No, I'm not crazy. But you want everyone to think I am." Maxie closed the book. "And you think you're smart? You think you can outsmart me?" "I think people need to know the truth." She stood up from the table. "The truth is that you are a pathetic loser who is jealous of your successful sister. The truth is that you're willing to destroy me just to get attention." "That's not true." "No?" Maxie came closer. "Then why are you the only one in this family who has no future? Why are you working as a cashier in a supermarket and I'm going to college?" "Because you always got everything you wanted, and I was only given what was left over." "Because I deserved it, and you didn't." Maxie's voice became more aggressive. "Do you know what's going to happen when I graduate? I'm going to be a nurse. I'll make good money. I will have respect. And you'll just be a useless cashier." "Maybe. But at least I won't be a sadistic woman who abuses her own sister." Maxie turned pale with anger. "What did you say?" "You're a sadist, Maxie. You like to hurt me." She grabbed me by the collar and pushed me against the wall. "Shut up, just shut up." "Or what, are you going to hit me like you always do?" "I'll kill you," she hissed. "I swear, Margot, if you don't stop." "Stop what? Telling the truth?" Maxie let go of me and stepped back. "You think you're smart, but you're wrong. No one will believe you, ever." "We'll see." She looked at me with hatred. "I will destroy you, Margot. I will destroy you completely, and when I do, you will remember this conversation." After she went to her room, I pulled out my phone with trembling hands. The recording was there. Not everything I wanted, but something. That evening, I sent the recording to Ivanes with a message. This happened today when my parents were not at home. He called an hour later. "Margot, this is very good. That's what we needed." "Is it enough?" "It's a start. Now we can take your case seriously again." For the first time in a long time, I went to bed feeling hopeful. Maybe Mark was right. Maybe the fight was worth it. But I didn't know that Maxie was also preparing her plans, and that the hardest part was yet to come. 3 months have passed since I recorded the conversation with Maxie. Ivanesh used the recording to reopen the case, but there were no real changes in his life. Maxie became more cautious. She no longer threatened me openly, but the atmosphere at home remained tense. I returned to work as a cashier at Fresh Mart with a cast on my arm. It was hard at first. Doing everything with one hand was harder than I thought, but the job gave me a sense of normalcy in the chaos of my life. It was then that I met Annette. She came to the store every 2 or 3 days, always at 4 in the evening when my shift was about to end. Annette was about 35 years old, a short woman with short dark bangs and piercing gray eyes. She always bought the same things: bread, milk, canned food, something simple for dinner. At first we just greeted each other, but over time, Annette began to linger at the cash register. "How's your arm, Shisai?" she asked me one day when I was scanning her purchases. "Better. They'll take the cast off in a week." "What happened?" I hesitated. Most people who saw my arm in a cast heard the story of how I fell. An accident, I finally said. Annette looked at me for a few seconds, and I saw something familiar in her eyes, understanding. An accident, she repeated quietly. Yes, I had many such accidents when I was younger. I looked at her more closely. If you ever want to talk, Annette said as she picked up her shopping bag, I'm here every day at 4. The next day she came again, and again she lingered at the checkout. How old are you? She asked. 17. You're young. When I was your age, I thought I had to put up with everything they did to me. I thought I deserved it. I was silent, but my heart was beating faster. And then I realized that no one deserves pain. No one. The way she said it made me look into her eyes. And you got out of that situation? Yes, not easily, not quickly, but I did. She stepped forward. Listen, baby, I don't know what's going on in your life, but if you need help, any help, you can count on me. After work, I walked home and thought about Annette. She was the first adult besides Ivanis to offer me help without knowing the whole story. At home, there was tension again. Maxie returned from college in a bad mood. She got a B in anatomy instead of the expected A. It's because of you, she told me when we were alone in the kitchen. With all this stress with the police and social services, I can't concentrate on my studies. I didn't answer, just continued washing the dishes. You are not only destroying your life, but mine as well. I'm not doing anything. That's exactly the problem. You're not doing anything to fix the situation. She came closer. You can stop this right now. Just tell that social worker that you made a mistake, that you made it all up. No. Why not? Why are you destroying our family? I turned to her. I'm not destroying the family. The family was already destroyed. I'm just showing you what it really is. Maxie turned pale with anger, but she didn't say anything. She knew that Ivanesh could show up at any time. The next day, Annette came to the store again. How are things going, Isa? She asked. It's difficult, I admitted. Do you want to talk after work? There's a cafe across the street. I hesitated, but something in her voice was so sincere that I agreed. An hour later, we were sitting in a small cafe called Denny's at a table by the window. Annette ordered coffee and I ordered a Coke. Tell me about your family, she said. And I did. Not everything at once, but a lot. About Maxie, about my parents, about how everyone thinks I'm lying. Annette listened silently, sometimes nodding. And your friend, Mark? Does he support you? Yes. He's the only one of my age who believes me. That's important. It's important to have at least one person who understands the truth. She took a sip of coffee. You know, I had a similar situation. Not with my sister, but with my husband. He beat me for years. And I thought it was my fault. What made you leave? He hit my daughter. I didn't care what he did to me, but when he touched her... Annette was silent for a minute. Then I realized that silence does not protect anyone. It only allows the abusers to continue. And where did you go? To a shelter at first. Then I found a job, a small apartment. It was hard, but we managed. I looked into her gray eyes and saw strength in them. Annette did not look like a victim. She looked like someone who had won. Margot, she said, you are young, but that doesn't mean you are helpless. You can change your life. How? I haven't even finished school yet. You can finish school at 18, but you only have one life to live. After that conversation, I began to look at my situation differently. Annette was right, I was not helpless. In the following weeks, we met in a cafe after my work. Annette told me about her life after the divorce, how she was building a new life from scratch. The hardest part is believing in yourself, she said. When you have been convinced for years that you are worthless, you start to believe it. How did you stop believing? Gradually, day by day, every little success, a new job, a new apartment, my daughter's smile, reminded me that I was worth something. Annette helped me find a second job cleaning offices in the evenings. The pay wasn't much, but it meant more money and more independence. Save every dollar, she advised. When you turn 18, you'll be able to rent your own place. The idea of owning a place seemed unbelievable, but Annette spoke of it as if it were entirely possible. 2 months after we met, an event happened that changed everything. Ivanesh came to our house with a large envelope under his arm. He looked excited. Margot, I need to talk to you, and with my parents, too. When the whole family gathered in the living room, Ivanesh pulled out the papers from the envelope. I've been doing some research on Margot's medical history, he said, and I found some interesting things. Dad's brow furrowed. What do you mean? Medical records show that Margot has been treated for injuries 9 times in the last 5 years. Broken arm, bruised kidneys, sprained muscles, bruises. Mom turned pale. These were accidents. Maybe. But statistically speaking, 9 injuries in 5 years is a lot for a teenager who doesn't play contact sports. Ivanesh spread the papers on the coffee table. I also talked to the doctors. Dr. Collins remembers 6 months ago when Margot came in with bruises on her back. He asked if she was okay at home, but Margot said she had fallen down the stairs. I remembered that day. Maxie pushed me when I was coming from the laundry and I went down the stairs. We told my parents that I slipped. And Dr. Thompson remembered the case of a sprained shoulder muscle. Margot was 14 at the time. The injury was typical of someone being pulled by the arm by force. Dad got up from the couch. Are you trying to say that we are bad parents? I'm trying to find out the truth, and the truth is that Margot's pattern of injuries is not consistent with random accidents. Maxie sat quietly, but I could see her muscles tense. It's all speculation, Mom said. Margot is really clumsy. She always has been. Maybe, Ivanesh said calmly, but in conjunction with the audio recording that Margot provided, it creates serious suspicion. He looked at each of us. That's why I recommend that we create a security plan for Margot. If there is another incident, any incident, we will consider removing her from the family. The atmosphere in the room had become almost physically difficult. After Ivanesh left, the family sat in silence. Finally, my father spoke up. Margot, do you realize what you are doing to our family? I'm telling the truth. The truth? Maxie said sharply. You're destroying us all with your fiction. Maxie, calm down, Mommy said. No, I will not calm down. I could lose my college scholarship because of her. She's tearing our family apart. She got up and came to me. Take back what you said, right now. Call that social worker and tell her you made a mistake. No, Margot, Dad said quietly. This may be the only way to keep this family together. I looked at them all, at my parents, who didn't believe me even after what Ivanis had said, at Maxie, who was still trying to manipulate me. No, I repeated. I'm not withdrawing anything. Then you'll make us choose, Dad said. Between what and what? Between you and the rest of the family. These words hurt more than any physical injuries Maxie had inflicted on me. Then choose, I said, and went to my room. The next day at work, I told Annette about the conversation with Ivanis and the family's reaction. It's good that you have proof, she said. And how is your sister reacting? She's furious. She says I'm destroying her future. And how do you feel? I asked. Scared, but also relieved. For the first time in a long time, someone believed me, really believed me. This is just the beginning, Annette said. Now the most important thing is to hold on. That evening, when I was returning from my second job, Maxie was waiting for me at the entrance to the store. She was standing under the streetlight, her face wet with tears. Margot, she said when I approached, I need to talk to you. About what? About us, about the family. She looked broken, vulnerable. The old Margot would have been touched. I've been a bad sister. Maxie continued. I know that, and I'm sorry. Maxie. No, listen to me. I realize I've hurt you. Maybe I didn't always realize how much, but I do now. Tears streamed down her cheeks. I want to fix everything. I want us to be real sisters again. A month ago, I would have thrown myself into her arms. I would have believed every word. But now I saw something I hadn't seen before. How quickly those tears appeared. How perfectly they flowed down her cheeks. How she stood under the streetlight so that I could see them exactly. Maxie, I said calmly. How long have you been standing there? What? She was surprised at the change of topic. How long have you been waiting for me outside the store? I don't see what the difference is. The difference is that you were prepared. You knew that I was coming this way. You knew the time when I was finishing work. You stood under the streetlight on purpose so I could see your tears. Maxie fell silent. You rehearsed that speech, didn't you? You thought about what words would work best? Margot, I really... No, you didn't. I interrupted her. You're not being real. You're playing a part. You always do. I moved closer to her. But you know what, Maxie? I'm not playing your game anymore. Her face changed. The tears disappeared as if they had never been there. Her soft features became sharp. What did you say? I said no. I won't forgive you. I will not return to my old life, and I will not take back what I said. Maxie looked at me for a few seconds. Then she smiled, coldly, without a single drop of warmth. Okay, she said. If that's how you want to play, then let's play. She came so close that I could feel her breath. But remember one thing, Margot. I've always been smarter than you, and I've always won. She turned and walked away, leaving me standing under the streetlight. But this time I wasn't afraid. For the first time in my life, I said no to Maxie and felt strong. I thought about Annette, about Yvonne, about Mark, about the people who believed in me. I was no longer alone, and that changed everything. The trial was scheduled for early December, 8 months after the night I told Maxie no. Since then, a lot has changed in my life. Most importantly, I moved away from my parents. It happened a month after the confrontation with Maxie at the store. The atmosphere at home became unbearable. My parents hardly ever spoke to me, and when they did, it was only with reproach. Maxie was very polite to me, but I could see the coldness in her eyes. You can't live here and destroy this family at the same time, Dad told me one evening. Either you withdraw your accusations, or you find another place to live. I chose the latter. Annette helped me find a room in the home of Mrs. Gordon, an elderly widow who rented out part of her house to students. The room was tiny, but it was mine. For the first time in my life, I had a place where I could lock the door and not be afraid that someone would come in without permission. It's only temporary, my mom told me when I was packing, until you come to your senses. But I wasn't going to come to my senses. Working as a cashier and renting a room at the same time was difficult financially, so Annette helped me find a third job, taking care of old Mr. Clark's dog on weekends. The money was meager, but I enjoyed spending time with his Labrador Charlie. You're good with him, Mr. Clark said one day as he watched me play with the dog in the yard. Have you ever thought about working with animals? Yes, I have. I'd like to be a veterinarian, but it's not possible. Why not? I don't have the money to study, and I'm not that smart. Mr. Clark looked at me from behind his glasses. Who told you you're not smart? I wondered. Maxie, my parents, my teachers, or maybe I had convinced myself of that. Do you know that there are assistance programs for students from disadvantaged families? He asked. And that you can start by working as a veterinarian's assistant while you study? That night I couldn't sleep for a long time thinking about Mr. Clark's words. What if there really is another way? Meanwhile, the case was gaining momentum. Ivanesh collected a lot of evidence. Medical records, doctors' testimonies, my audio recording of the conversation with Maxie. He even found witnesses, a physical education teacher who remembered me hiding my bruises, and a neighbor who heard screams from our house several times. The case is strong, Maxie's assigned defense attorney told me during a preliminary meeting. But your sister and her lawyer will fight to the end. Maxie hired an expensive lawyer. Her parents spent their life savings on it. They still believed she was innocent. On the morning of the trial, I woke up at 5 and couldn't go back to sleep. Mrs. Gordon made me breakfast, but I could not swallow anything. Everything will be fine, dear, she said, patting me on the shoulder. The truth is on your side. Ivanesh, Mark, and Annette accompanied me to the court. Mark held my hand as we entered the courthouse. Are you ready? He asked. No, but it doesn't matter. Maxie came in a light pink dress that made her look young and defenseless. She sat at the table with her lawyer and occasionally wiped her eyes with a handkerchief. Her parents were sitting in the front row behind her, nodding in support. When I walked in, Maxie looked at me, and there was no remorse or fear in her eyes, only cold rage. The trial began with speeches from the lawyers. Maxie's defense lawyer painted a picture of an unhappy girl who fell victim to her sister's morbid fantasies. Maxie Wilson is an excellent student, a future nurse, a young woman with an impeccable reputation, he said. And Margot Wilson is an unstable young woman with a history of mental health problems who is jealous of her sister's success. Then the prosecutor took the floor. This is not about jealousy or fantasy, he said. This is about years of systematic physical and psychological abuse, about a girl who endured years of abuse and finally found the strength to tell the truth. Medical experts were the first to testify. Dr. Collins told me about my history of injuries and emphasized the unusual nature of some of them. The finger-shaped bruises on my back, the sprained shoulder muscle, the broken arm at an unusual angle, all of these point to external influences, not accidents. Maxie's lawyer tried to question these conclusions. Couldn't these injuries have been caused by falls or bumping into furniture? Theoretically, yes, but the statistical probability of so many such accidents in one person is very low. Then Ivanesh testified. He spoke about his work with the case, the facts he found, and the audio recording. When they played the recording of Maxie's voice, "I will destroy you, Margot. Completely." I saw her go pale. Those were her own words, and there was no denying them. Finally, it was my turn. I approached the witness stand on shaky legs. The hall seemed huge, and the people's gazes were scorching. The prosecutor asked me simple questions about what happened at home. I told him about Maxie's games, about how she found ways to hurt me without leaving any traces, about the years of silence and fear. "Why did you keep silent for so long?" the prosecutor asked. "Because I was afraid. Maxie said that if I told anyone it would be even worse, and because I thought no one would believe me." "And why did you decide to talk now?" "Because I realized that silence does not change anything. It only allows her to continue." Then it was the turn of Maxie's lawyer. He tried to portray me as an unstable, jealous sister. "Isn't it true that you were jealous of Maxie's academic success?" "No, I was proud of her." "Isn't it true that your parents paid more attention to her?" "Yes, but that doesn't justify the violence." "Couldn't you have made up these accusations to draw attention to yourself?" I looked him straight in the eye. No one makes up years of pain for attention. When it was Maxie's turn, she played her part perfectly. She cried at the right moments, looked broken and defenseless. "I never meant to hurt Margot," she said through her tears. "We played like all sisters, maybe sometimes too roughly, but it was just playing." "And how do you explain the audio recording?" the prosecutor asked. I was annoyed. Margot is always talking at me and I lost control, but that doesn't mean I physically hurt her. It was well acted, but not as convincing as before. The last witness was Mark. He told me about how he noticed my injuries, about calling the police, about how I trusted him. "Margot is not the kind of person who makes up stories," he said. "She's always been honest, and it hurt me to see her suffer." The trial lasted 3 days. On the third day, the court adjourned to reach a verdict. I waited at Mrs. Gordon's house for 2 days. Annette came every night, bringing food and support. Mark called every few hours. "No matter what happens, he would say, you did the right thing, you told the truth." Finally, a call came from Ivanes. "Margot, come over. The court has made a decision." The courtroom was as quiet as a church. Maxie sat at her desk with her hands folded. Her parents behind her looked aged. The judge read the verdict in a calm voice. "Upon consideration of all the evidence and testimony, the court finds Maxie Wilson guilty of systematic physical and psychological abuse of her minor sister." There was a whisper in the courtroom. Maxie turned pale. Given the defendant's age, no prior convictions, and the fact that the victim no longer lives with her family, the court imposes a 2-year suspended sentence with a ban on contact with the victim. It wasn't the prison I was secretly hoping for, but it was a recognition, an official confirmation that I was telling the truth. After the verdict was announced, Maxie turned and looked at me. This time, her eyes were not angry, but something like astonishment, as if she couldn't believe she had lost. My parents came up to me as we were leaving the court. "I hope you're happy," Dad said dryly. "You destroyed our family," Mom added. "No, I didn't," I replied. "I just showed it for what it really was." They left without looking back. A year later, my life changed dramatically. Mr. Clark was a former veterinarian, and he helped me get a job as an assistant at his former partner's clinic. The work was hard cleaning cages, caring for animals, assisting with surgeries, but I loved every minute of it. "You have a talent," Dr. Anderson told me 6 months later. "Have you ever thought about studying?" I applied to college for a program to help students from disadvantaged families. I passed the entrance exams better than I expected. At the clinic, I met Ryan, a veterinary technician who had been working there for 3 years. He was a quiet, smart guy who loved animals as much as I did. At first, we just talked about work. Then we started going to lunch together. Gradually, the friendship grew into something more. Tell me about your family, he asked one evening when we were walking in the park. I told him the whole story about Maxie, about the trial, about why I live alone. Ryan listened in silence. When I finished, he just took my hand. I'm sorry you had to go through that, he said, but I'm proud of you for finding the strength to fight. He wasn't trying to pity me or fix me, he just accepted me for who I was, with all my history. My parents sometimes wrote, usually when they needed money or when Maxie got into trouble again. She violated the terms of her probation twice. Once she tried to contact me through social media, and the second time she came to the clinic where I worked. Margot, please, she begged me then. I have changed. Give me a chance to fix everything. But I had already learned to distinguish between genuine remorse and manipulation. There was no real understanding of what she was doing in her eyes, only anger at being caught. No, I told her then. You had a chance, 19 years of chances. Now it's my turn to live. I am 20 now. I'm a sophomore in college studying veterinary medicine. I live in a small apartment with a cat named Sammy, whom I picked up near the clinic. I still have scars, physical scars, on my arm from a fracture, psychological scars, in the form of caution in relationships with people. It is still hard for me to trust. It is hard to believe that someone can love me just like that, without conditions. But I have learned to value myself. I learned to say no. I learned to distinguish between people who really love me and those who want to take advantage of me. Annette became like an old sister to me. Mark has remained one of my best friends. Ryan, we're still seeing where this is going, but I'm in no hurry. And Maxie, she graduated from college and is working as a nurse in another city. Sometimes I hear about her from her parents. She's still a great daughter. She just made a little mistake in the past. They never understood, and probably never will, but it's not my problem anymore. I saved myself. And that's the only thing that really mattered. Sometimes, when I look at my reflection in the mirror, I don't see a victim, but a victor. Not a girl who ran away from her problems, but a woman who found the strength to fight them. And this is the best victory of all.